Hi, my name is Lucy and this is my Flosstube channel, Stitch to My Lou. And today I'm going to be showing you my collection of vintage patterns. I have alluded a little bit to wanting to make this video in my past videos, so I hope that if you're interested, you have found this video and will follow along. So I don't have a huge collection, but I'll be talking through what I have and how I got it and like where I find these things. So I think that I'll just jump right into it. So one of my biggest sources of vintage patterns is a place called Scrap PDX. I think there are scrap associates in different cities, but the one I've been to is in Portland, and I've been there 3 times now, and every time I go I have so much fun digging through the bins of cross-stitch patterns. So Scrap is a creative reuse store, so I don't know exactly how they source things, but they receive items as donations and then they sell them to creatives and artists who can give them another life. So first I'm going to talk about what I purchased my first time going to Scrap. So this is Cross Stitch and Country Crafts from September, October of '87. And the reason why I bought this magazine is for this specific page. They have these amazing animal silhouette patterns that I just was so charmed by. I haven't stitched any of them, but I really think they're adorable, and I think they'd be fun to do in a variegated floss. And yeah, like look at this cow. This cow is amazing. I'm not gonna flip through every single page. I've bookmarked the patterns that are like my favorites, so I'll just talk about my favorite patterns. I won't bore you with everything. Another thing I got during that trip is the Mill Hill Frosty Nights 2. And I'll be honest, when I purchased this, I realized it was Mill Hill, but I didn't realize that meant it would be full of Mill Hills, which is user error, I can admit that. But I just loved this cover image, like these funky snow people. It reminds me of like something an elementary school teacher would wear. And I just loved them, but then I looked at the patterns and obviously they're full of beads and treasures, which is just not something I'm really interested in. So I don't know if I'll end up stitching these or if I'll pass them on, but I do love a lot of these designs, so I wonder if I could substitute out the Mill Hills, but I think that booklet's really fun. When I was back at Scrap recently, they had a fish, like a coral reef and tropical fish edition of this, and I restrained because I realized it was full of treasures, but they're really cool patterns. They're really fun and funky. Let's see if I can find the year for that one. Copyright 2000. So all right, next up is this guy from Fanci That. When I went, they had a lot of holiday patterns out, so this first little batch is full of holiday patterns. This is by Fanci That from 1995. I don't know what this pattern's called. The Teeny Tiny Series number 112. And it's got like the printed out, or the like photo taped on, so I just think he's cute. And I think he'd make a fun little ornament, or I don't know, he's just cute. Speaking of cute little patterns that I'm not sure what I'll do with it, this is Santa and Friend by Threads Through Time. Again, just so fun and charming. I don't see the year on this one, so the stitched year says 2000, so I guess it was maybe 2000. And then this is Snow Pal by Leisure Arts. I think this one gives kind of a similar vibe to the Mill Hill ones, and so maybe this will satisfy that like elementary school kindergarten teacher ugly sweater desire to stitch a funky snowman. So I like I like him. Maybe I'll put him on a garment. Probably not, but maybe. And then the last pattern from my very first trip to Scrap is Crescent Santa. And this pattern is by Sandra Sullivan. And it's copyright 1992, so that's really fun. I think I want to stitch this one for Christmas this year. It's just really fun and classic Christmas Santa. So that was my very first trip to Scrap that I got all of those items. And then when I went back, it was probably like a few months later, they had a bunch of these, which are, it's just a binder. And when I was there, it was taped shut, and it says pattern surprise pack. And it said it had 25 plus patterns of cross stitch, and it was just like miscellaneous theme, and it was all for $1. And the curiosity, I just couldn't help myself. I had to get it just to rip off the tape and look around in it. And I feel good about that. I feel like I got my money's worth. I think the best find in this one is Cameo Geese by P. Buckley Moss. And I just love this design. Like, I've never seen this style, but I just think it's really elegant and pretty. The pattern isn't in the best shape. Like, it's kind of taped together, so I'm hoping that once I go to stitch it, I'll be able to read it without any problem. But I love this pattern. Copyright 1985, so love that one. And then for the most part, the rest of this is, I'll try to hold it up. It's patterns that have been cut out of magazines and put in here. So I'm not gonna flip through every single page, but I do have a few favorites. Here we are again with the funky snowman on a sweatshirt. Love. And then I love this frog. I don't know if I would stitch the words with it, but I just love that frog and his long little leg. So that's really fun. Quincy would like to look. It's kind of a mix of Christmassy stuff and just classic stuff. And then it also had this booklet in the back. Quincy, no thanks. It also had this booklet in the back, which is In Times Past, cross stitch and quilting. And one of my favorites from this pattern from this booklet is right here. It's floral. It kind of reminds me of, well, not really, but it kind of reminds me of From Velvet to Linen, like that same style of flowers. So I really like that one. And then when I was just looking at it, I realized it has this on the back, this little garden pattern, which I actually really like that design, and how they use the empty space to create the texture of the plants. So that's part of it too now. And during that same trip, I also got cross stitch and country crafts from January, February of '92. And again, these are just fun to flip through, but of course, in case you didn't know, I love seashells, I love the beach, I love the ocean. So this one obviously caught my eye with the shell pattern. And it has several variations on that pattern inside, where it's like little motifs that you can stitch off of it. And then the other one I have, bookmarked is this pickle jar, like preservation jar piece. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like pickles and jam and cherries. And I just think it's really cute. And this is part of a series, A Year in Cross Stitch, from the other issues, which I won't try to find, but maybe I could stitch this for one of my teacher friends. And yeah, I just love that pickle jar. So that one's a lot of fun. And then I also purchased the Dreamscape Carousel by Teresa Wensler from Scrap. And I was a horse girl as a child, so I loved carousels. And this just caught my eye. There's also individual horse pattern, or individual horses from the carousel. But yeah, this is the overall carousel. This is a massive project, and the chart is handwritten. It has tons of colors, and it has blending filaments and specialty stitches. So if and when I do stitch it, it will be a major undertaking, but for now, I'm very pleased to have it in my collection. Yeah, and whenever I go to Scrap, it's very affordable. Like, I don't think I've ever spent more than $5 total there. It's, they are just giving away these patterns. It's so fun to look through. So this next one I got from the freebie table at the Acorns and Threads beach retreat, which I went to this spring. And this is Mary's Favorites Dimensions. It's just a little pattern packet. This one's copyright 1994. And it's just kind of, they're mostly sunflower patterns. That's what drew me to them. These sunflower designs. I really like this one with the little bee. And then I kind of love this welcome sign. I feel like that would be cute to use as like a key hook or something. And then this teapot and this like coffee pot. I just liked them. And a sunflower will always catch my eye, so I was excited to pick that up from the freebie table. And then my next two patterns are from Cross Stitch the Globe when she was doing her vintage patterns destashes. I really like watching her videos, and if you enjoy learning about vintage patterns, I'm sure you've already discovered her videos. But these are a couple that I bought from her during her big destash that she did earlier this year. So this first one is Angel of the Sea from the Victorians Across America group. And this Victorian is in Cape May, New Jersey, which is a place that I visited a lot growing up. And again, this would be a major undertaking if I ever decide to stitch it, but I just thought it was really cool that this pattern was of a place that I had been, and excited to have that in my collection. And then I also got this Conch and Sand Dollar pattern. I love conches and I love sand dollars, and I have several of both of them. And looking at these patterns, I mean, it's mostly just beiges, so I don't know if it's actually how much fun it's actually going to be to stitch, but I might try it. Maybe I could switch up the colors and make them a little bit brighter and more interesting, or put them on a fun fabric. But the pattern caught my eye, so I grabbed that from Stephanie. This is copyright 1987. So, and then this spring I went to a flea market, and there was a gal there who had a whole cross stitch collection that she was selling, and I of course had a great time looking through all of her stuff, and I purchased two patterns. So this one is Hats Off to Halloween by Lizzie Kate. I talked about this in my most recent video because I'm planning to start it soon for Halloween this year. I actually have it finally kitted up, so this will be a start very soon. This is another one where the picture is printed out and taped on, so that's how you know it's a classic. But I am really excited about that pattern, and I just thought it was so cute and such a creative way to do a Halloween pattern. And my other purchase from that flea market was Portia Pig by Color Charts Inc. And I mean, I think that she speaks for herself. Look at her. I'm really excited to stitch her at some point. I can't find a year on here, but Portia, love her. And then my latest trip to Scrap, I showed this in my last video, but I purchased this Lighthouses of the West Coast. And I was very restrained, and this was the only pattern that I bought that time. But after watching all of Stephanie Cross Stitch the Globe's videos, I feel like every one that I saw, I was like, ooh, Stephanie would love that. Or like, ooh, I've seen that in her videos. Or you know, the spark has been ignited, and now I can't just look past all these amazing vintage patterns but I still try to be restrained and realistic about what I would actually stitch. But these lighthouses are cool, and these are from 1983, so I think these might be the oldest. This might be the oldest one that I showed today. But yeah, that is the entirety of my vintage pattern collection. Hopefully I can stitch some of these before my next trip to Scrap, because so far my vintage pattern collection has only grown and I haven't actually stitched any of these patterns. So again, I always love browsing through them, but maybe I'll try to be a little more restrained in purchasing them until I've proven to myself that I will actually stitch through them. But yes, I would love to know if you have seen any of these patterns before, or where you learn about vintage patterns, if you like follow certain shops on Etsy or other Flosstubers who stitch vintage patterns. I'd love to hear where you get your intel. And yeah, if any of these patterns stood out to you, or ones that you have and you want to stitch them together, please let me know. But thank you for watching, and I look forward to chatting in the comments, and I will see you next time.